Hello, everyone out there on your notebooks and smartphones. This is FECC, the European Association of Chemical Distributors based in Brussels. We are more than happy to co-host today a webinar on a very interesting business model on chemical leasing and green chemistry in close cooperation with the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, abbreviated UNIDO. Before we go into more details with the business model itself, with the United Nations Award for these specific business models, and before I introduce to you our very knowledgeable speaker of today, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Dorothee Arns, and I'm the Director General of FECC. And I would like to quickly introduce our association to you, because we are a mixed audience today and not everybody might be so familiar yet with us. But I would hope after the webinar, you know us a bit better, and also why we are so interested in the topic. Because from all the many hundreds of associations here in Brussels, we are the only European association which represents all chemical segments under one umbrella. So literally from one end of the value chain, means petrochemicals and fuels, over everything to the other end of the value chain, which for us is life sciences, as defined by cosmetics, food and feed, and pharmaceuticals. And in between all the different segments we cover as well, means plastics, polymers, textiles, adhesives, coatings, elastomers, everything which is somehow made of chemicals. We are also happy to have all company sizes with us, from very innovative startups up to big multinationals, and again, everything in between. We cover all chemical supply chain functions. Also in the association, we have producers with us, of course, the distributors, transportation companies, container providers, shipping companies, and a very active IT cluster. So with companies providing digital solutions to our daily operations. And many of our members are small and medium-sized enterprises, and many of those are even family-owned. So that's a little bit us, a huge and very diverse community, because in total we represent more than 1,600 companies from all parts of Europe via our 40 national associations and via direct membership. And this slide gives you a quick outlook on what our members are performing in terms of supply chain functions. And I would like to stress that this is just a little flavor. There are many, many more. The slide actually would burst. This is why we concentrated on only 6, which are the most common ones. So our members are active in research and development, in warehousing, in recycling, in formulating and blending, in logistics and packaging, and also in technical and regulatory advice to their clients. Especially, of course, those who might not even have a chemist in the house, but use chemicals in their daily operations. So that is also part of our service package as distributors, to instruct them and guide them how to use chemicals safely, responsibly, and environmentally friendly. So that's a little bit us. And now, let me quickly go into a couple of housekeeping remarks. I keep it short, I promise. So first of all, competition compliance is a matter of course for a European association like us. So, and it goes without saying that this webinar takes place in the framework of European antitrust regulations. Next slide, please. And of course, we want to make it as interactive as possible, which means I warmly invite you to send us your questions, which we will read out loudly and anonymously and ask our very knowledgeable speaker, Reinhard Joas, to answer them. So how do you do that? So this is an MS Team system. So I would assume most of you are anyhow familiar with how the system works. So you can either click the question button in your dashboard and type in your question. If you prefer to send it via the chat box, this is also possible. In any case, please allow a couple of minutes transaction time before it ends up here with us in Brussels. As I said before, I will read out the questions loudly, will not read out your name, and will ask Reinhard to answer them. And this marks the end of the housekeeping remarks. And now we jump into the topic. And it's my great pleasure to announce today's speaker, who combines a lot of business knowledge with a huge know-how on chemistry and chemical business models. And it has been working with the United Nations for many, many years. It's Reinhard Joas, who is the Senior Advisor for the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, and Managing Director of the company CS3 GmbH, headquartered in Munich, Germany. Warm welcome to Reinhard, who will introduce himself in a bit more detail afterwards. We couldn't be happier to have you with us, Reinhard. The floor is yours, and we are looking forward to your presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dorothy, for your nice and overwhelming words. And in particular, also, thank you for invitation to this webinar. And I think before we start, I should also mention that FECC supports this whole procedure of the Global Chemical Leasing Award together with United Nations and with the governments of Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And I think so this is a very illustrious club of supporters, what makes us proud to work for this Global Chemical Leasing Award and to prepare this award. Yeah, a few words to my position or what I'm doing. So I'm by education a chemical engineer and an economist, and I work since 35 years in consulting for governments on international, European and national level, as well as for companies and associations. And chemical leasing, what we are talking today, is a type of my best loved baby since 20 years, because I think this is a business model, and you will hear it later, that enables a triple win situation for economic reasons, for environmental reasons, for the supplier of chemicals, for the user of chemicals, and it is something special, and it's really an honor that I can explain today a little bit on the background of chemical leasing, and in particular of this Chemical Leasing Award. If you take the next picture. This intervention is structured in 4 parts. I will start giving you some basic information on chemical leasing. What are we talking? And this is a provocative headline, chemical leasing. So what is behind? And then I will turn to this Chemical Leasing Award, Global Award 2024. And will explain why it might make a lot of sense for you to apply. This is still possible. And what are the different categories? What are the rules? And what is in particular your benefit if you go in the direction of this award application? And going one step deeper, I will then explain what are the details for the application, deadlines, what is required from your side. And the whole parts 1 to 3 will take about 20 to maximum 30 minutes, what will give us sufficient time to discuss, to answer your questions, also give some recommendations what might be requested or well liked by the evaluation committee. Next slide, please. So I start with some basics of chemical leasing. You all know the daily business between a chemical supplier and a chemical user. That's every day, everyone knows it. And nearly all or most all business are done in a way that the supplier delivers a certain amount of chemicals and gets paid by the chemical user for the quantity. The quantity might be kilograms, tons, liters, whatsoever. but it's a payment for the volume. Chemical leasing is different because chemical leasing, the basic idea is that a chemical user does not want basically to become the owner of a chemical. He wants to have the function of the chemical, the benefit of the chemical. It might be nice to be the owner of a watch or a nice painting or a house or whatsoever, but for chemicals, it's more interesting to get the benefit and the functionality than the ownership. And this was the starting point for chemical leasing. If you click, please, you see the chemical supplier provides the chemicals and a certain level of know-how to the chemical user, how to best use these chemicals. And then if you click again, the chemical user pays for the benefit, the service of these chemicals, the performance of the chemicals, not for the volume. And I will explain later why this has these triple win effects and why this is really a business model, and we always call it a business model. If you click again, then and again, you see at the end of this story, when you pay for the benefits like the number of clean tubes, the number of clean parts, the surface of coated or painted particles, if you pay for the benefits of a chemical, at the end of the day, a lower amount of chemicals will be used in the processes. We see these in all processes where this business model is applied. At the end, the amount of chemical goes down. And this is the trick and the crazy thing behind chemical leasing. This is something what leads to higher profitability for the chemical supplier and for the chemical user. Next slide, please. And here you see, next, if you click, through the traditional business model on the left-hand side, you basically have an interest, a commercial interest of the supplier to sell more. The more you sell, the better. Every salesperson knows it. And with the volume-based pricing, the user would like to have as little chemical as possible because for the user, it's a cost factor, the amount of chemicals he purchases. For the supplier, the amount of chemicals that is delivered to a client or to a process is a factor of earning. So you have to a certain extent contradictory motivations. Of course, the supplier wants to have his user happy and so on, and there is also a strategic perspective. But basically, if you bring it down to a pure business perspective, then a supplier wants to sell as much as possible and the user wants to use less. In chemical leasing, this is now different. Because if you do not pay for the volume of the chemical, but for the benefits, that means, for example, the number of clean pieces, then this amount of chemicals turns from a factor of earning to a cost driver for the supplier. He gets his money for the number of cleaned parts, not for the liters of chemicals supplied. And therefore, there is a new motivation for the supplier because with the chemical volume turning to a factor of cost, he is also interested to bring as little chemicals into the process to offer his knowledge and know-how to optimize the process and avoid unnecessary consumption of chemicals. So both supplier and user have now aligned and motivation in the same direction, what defines a new type of collaboration. And this new collaboration is the source of the benefits that finally are achieved within this business model. On the next slide, please. You see how this is done. Some examples. We have many. if you have the coating, powder coating of these metal equipment, the classical business is you pay per ton of powder coating. In chemical leasing, you pay per square meter of coated surface. And then the optimization process starts with specific knowledge of the supplier, combining the knowledge of the user. That typically is not the chemical expert and typically has not sufficient knowledge about the most efficient use of the chemical. So if these two work together, because they both have now the commercial interest in reduced volumes, this is a promising exercise. On the next slide, you see various areas where this is done and has been done very successfully in more than 250 pilot studies, where I know the figures, but many more in some areas. This is a good mainstream. How does it happen in agriculture? If you look on pesticides, what is the benefit of the pesticides? The benefit means a hectare of land free of pests or pest control. So if you pay for a hectare of land free of pests or pest control, then just the amount that is required to achieve this benefit will be placed on this hectare and not as many pesticides as it has been done in the past. Many farmers insist to see, in particular in developing and transition countries, many pesticides on their field because they want to be sure to have the yield. But if they get support from their chemical supplier, not just selling them tons they don't need, but selling the right amount, then this chemical leasing or performance-based business model works. You have it in the beverage and food production industry, in the petrochemical industry with catalysts, and even you go to the hotel and service sector for cleaning and disinfectant chemicals. You have it because the hotel pays for the square meters of cleaned floor or the number of clean dishes. And we see many cases in hotels where disinfecting chemicals and cleaning chemicals go down, but profitability go up for the supplier and for the user because less resources go to the process, and so the added value that is generated by this can be shared between the partners. I will not go to all these industrial areas. You might find in your own portfolio several interesting cases where this could be applicable. If you take the next slide. This just summarizes again the key principles, and this is really a very short introduction. The user does not pay to own the chemical. He spends his money for the benefit provided by a chemical. A key exercise of chemical leasing is to define what is the benefit, what can be the unit of payment. It is not the volume. The producer sells the function of the chemical. This might include know-how on efficiency and risk. He might add managing services like production, management, and logistics. So at the end, this is a service provision thinking. This is a performance-based thinking. And so a lot of knowledge that is available on producer or supplier side, here we're talking about distributors, can be monetized in this business model. The amount of chemicals that is used in a process will decline as it already said. It turns the amount of chemical turns from a factor of earnings for the supplier to a cost driver. So there is this common interest to bring the consumed amounts down, and there is an added value. If you have less resources, less material going into the processes, if the processes are done more efficient, there is something what you can share. And if this is shared in a fair way between the partners, then an added value is generated. And this will lead us to the last slide of this introduction. If you please click again. You see the environment dimension and the economic dimension. If you click again, you see that, and click again, that in the environment area, we have a clear added value because less chemicals going to a process mean less resources, typically reduced waste load, reduced air pollution, reduced water pollution. This is all interesting from an environment perspective, but this is not the, let's say, the initial step of this. The initial step, it is a business model. The two partners, the supplier and the user, work together under new conditions. And with these new conditions, reduced amount of chemicals go into the processes. That means if there is a fair contract, and typically industry enables fair contracts at the end of the day, it's a clear win for the chemical user and the chemical supplier. And as a logic consequence, the environment win then automatically occurs. So it's not an environmental business model. It's an economic, a profitable business model that at the end has also also addresses the environmental dimension. And this is also the reason why this business model has been promoted and is promoted by governments around the globe. It's mentioned in the EU legislation, countries like Austria, Germany, Switzerland, but also Sri Lanka, Colombia, Salvador, Kenya, other countries support it as it fits to their chemicals policy. They look on the environment dimension and they think this is a smart business model, as it is not just another burden for industry, it provides higher profits to industry, and it serves the environmental targets and environmental policies around the globe. And this is also the reason why governments and United Nations have launched this award procedure. An award procedure to highlight pilot projects, lighthouse projects, new possibilities, new chances with this business model. And I will, if you bring the next slide, please, I will now give you a short overview about how this award is designed and what are the different categories. There are three basic categories. One is case studies, that means existing contracts. I will show you the details in a minute. Then there is a second category, innovation. That means you are preparing in your company new solutions, process optimizations, new and better chemicals, new combinations, which you could call innovation, that at the end enable or support such performance-based business models. So then you can apply in category 2. And category 3, research, is if it's even not as far as innovation, what concerns the development, but if it goes into patents, and if it goes into, yeah, we also invite universities or PhD students, if they have interesting approaches here, they can apply for research, but also your research in your R&D department is or can be qualified for the award here. And yeah, if we go on the next slide a little bit into the details of case study. Case study requires a chemical leasing contract is already signed. So as a contract between a supplier and a user is signed, is existing, where the unit of payment is not the volume, but the performance of the chemical. And in the past, we had many of these case studies, and we were interested in the case studies. And still, we hope that we get several of these case studies, but we know this business model is applied in industry, and also FECC members have applied several times successfully. And so it's good whatever we get as case studies, the assessment criteria will be environment and health impacts with 50% and economic and social impacts with 50%. And now comes the but. This time, I think we are in particular interested in seeing applications for category 2 and 3. Next slide, please. So category 2 is described cases with technical solutions that have the potential to or have already defined a new state of the art for a certain use of chemicals. That means you have developed some of these solutions where you can fulfill a required job for a chemicals with less chemicals or with more efficient chemicals. And these chemicals or these technical solutions would qualify then in a next step to be further developed to chemical leasing. But we are in particular interested to see this now and also to give you with the award the chance to promote your solution, to outreach to your clients and tell them the story. In the future, we have done something that will be a revolution, a significant improvement of your chemical processes, of your processes where you use chemicals. And so this will be qualified for final chemical leasing at the end. Here we will assess in an international evaluation committee the level of innovation with a weighting factor of 40% and the level of improvement with a weighting factor of 60%. Then we have for third, on the next slide, a third category. And this third category is, as already mentioned before, called research. And this is a very broad category. It says innovative and applied research to bring performance-based business models forward. This can be papers, lectures, curricula, PhD theses, patents, and so on. But I want to highlight, this is not just addressing the university field. Your R&D departments that are on the way to bring something what fits to chemical leasing, to performance-based business model, they are invited to apply here. And I would say it also in a wider sense, even if you cannot see right now that it will end up in something like chemical leasing or a performance-based business model, but it will end up in something what is called sustainable or green chemistry, also apply. You will have a chance if it's something what really helps to improve processes where chemicals are involved. The assessment criteria are the level of novelty with 30%, the level of quality with 40%, and the level of potential outreach impacts, again with 30%. These are the three basic categories. Next slide. We have two more. We have two special awards. One special award that is called Women-Led Initiatives, and one special award that is called New Business Models for Green and Sustainable Chemistry. We are having this award since 2010, always under the host of UNIDO and the Austrian government. And at the last Chemical Leasing Award in 2021, for the first time we had these women-led initiatives that was very well received, and we saw many teams led by a woman or where women played an important role in an initiative. And this is worth to be specially awarded. And the next is fifth special award about new business models for green and sustainable chemistry. This by intention widens the scope, because we would like to see also other approaches that not are directly chemical leasing, but that support and contribute to green and sustainable chemistry. Again, what are the details and the criteria? If you take the next slide, you see for the women-led initiative, this is, I would say, a second chance, because applications need to go for category 1, 2, and 3. But if you have a special women-led approach, women-led initiative, it can again apply for this category 4. What means first round is to see what is the score that is achieved in category 1, 2, 3. And then if it's an initiative led by women, it automatically goes again into category 4 and has again the chance to become a winner in this award category. And so the score of the basic assessment will be taken here, but of course the number of competitors or the number of cases that are in this category 4 is limited compared to the categories 1 to 3. Therefore, I said it's a second chance, and we had very, very nice initiatives in the last award. Category 5 on the next slide. As said, we are interested to learn more about new business models in parallel to chemical leasing that contribute to green and sustainable chemistry. By intention, we want to widen the scope and see also what are other approaches that might be interesting. And 3 criteria have been defined: the sustainability impact with 50%, the level of innovation with 30%, and the level of outreach with 20%. So that means this 5th category gives you the chance, whatever you are doing in the direction of sustainable chemistry and green chemistry, where you see this will be a new business model, you can apply for the award. Now, I spoke a lot about the different categories. If you bring the next slide, please. What is the framework for this? So the application period started already 1st April with the testing phase, and then in May we started with the hot phase, and the end of the application period will be this year, end of this year, 31st of December. It's not a lot of time what you need to invest to fill the few templates. So this is done in a few hours. It will not take half a day typically. Then from the timing, there will be an evaluation committee meeting in early February. That is evaluating all the completed applications. In case there is something missing or there are some questions, you will get a feedback directly from the evaluation team or the preparatory team before 31st December, in case there are questions. But the final assessment will then take place in early February. And the award ceremony will be on 13 March. There is, because it's an award, there is some money behind what will be given to the winners. But I think what is much more important than a few thousand euros which you get as award is the PR that is behind this award. So we will have the Director General of United Nations Industrial Development Organization. We will have minister from Austria and ambassadors from various countries, and in really a very nice ceremony that will take place in Vienna, in the UN city. And there will be press releases, there will be a lot of visibility on those that are the winners, but also on those that have contributed. Every company that successful participates at the award receives a certificate, and if they wish, they can also be mentioned then on the UN website and on the particular website of the award. So this is and I'm talking here from the experience of previous award. This is the main added values for the companies, because you get a visibility, which is in other ways, if you do this via your own marketing, you have to spend huge amounts to have such an outreach as is internationally or international high-level ceremony. And a big thanks again to Dorothy, also bringing some of the CEOs of chemical distributors to this ceremony. So by intention, we have more time this year for industry, also showing up their efforts in achieving sustainability targets. And so I think FACC has really significantly contributed to make this a success story in March. On the next slide, and I'm coming to an end now, I would like to mention again the main sponsors. So this is Austria, the Ministry for the Environment, that will also co-host this event together with United Nations Industrial Development Organization, the governments of Germany and Switzerland, FACC, and the International Sustainability Center, ISC3, which is an institute founded in Germany to promote sustainable chemistry worldwide. So these are the organizations that are behind this award. When I say that they actively contributed, we have more countries that have signed a declaration that they will support these type of business models. And if you are interested, I can give you a list of these countries. And if you are present in these countries, you can ask them also for support in your daily business. On the next slide, some pictures, something where you see really the international character of this event. We have winners from Latin America, from Africa, from Asia Pacific, and of course from Europe. And it's also a big party in Vienna, and you meet interesting people. It's this year also, or in next March, back to back with an UN event in the afternoon where we will discuss on the collaboration of international organizations like WHO, United Nations Environment Program, UNIDO, on sustainable chemistry. And the evening, the gala evening, will then be the award ceremony. Yeah. Last slide here on this presentation. And this is, of course, the most important. You should feel invited to download the application forms at this website. You will see it's not a complicated procedure. We want to keep it as simple as possible, but of course we need some information in order to assess your approach. And in case you have any question, you can contact me directly via email. And I have a team here, a preparatory team, an international team coming from Asia Pacific, Africa, Latin America, Eastern Europe, and me and the team will help you and answer your questions in case you have any. So this is more or less the promised 25 or 30 minutes. What means we are now 1:40, and we have another 20 minutes for all types of questions you might have to chemical leasing directly or to the award. And even after this webinar, of course, if you have any questions, just send me an email and you will receive an answer. So thank you very much. And I leave now the floor to Dorothy or Diana, because I don't see at the moment any questions, but I think you have noted or taken note, Diana.
Yes, we have some questions, Reinhard, in any case. So don't go away.
No,
we still have a lot to discuss here. But first of all, let me thank you very much for a very inspiring and a very passionate kind of ambassadoring for this scheme. And you said it rightly, we at FECC are very, very happy to support it because sustainability is the order of the day. You said it all very, very well, and we couldn't be happier to support UNIDO. Hopefully a lot of new applications come in because not every day can you apply for an award at the United Nations with such a prestige, such an outreach, and such a visibility. So strong invitation and encouragement also from our side here. And we are happy if you wish to relay questions back. We will certainly also promote the award and scheme again over the next weeks. We'll also be happy to relay it back then to Reinhard. So many, many thanks, Reinhard. That was fantastic and very crispy and very eye-opening. And I think you generated possibly a lot of applications from our very esteemed audience. And oh, wow, the questions are also very interesting. So are you ready for the questions, Reinhard?
I'm ready.
Super. Then let's start. First one, very interesting presentation. Many thanks. Would you think chemical leasing is also a good business model to foster competitiveness, especially in Europe?
This is a very easy question. Thank you very much. Very clear answer is yes. Chemical leasing leads to higher profitability and to increase competitiveness. Some elements of it. As I described, there is a new way of collaboration between the supplier and the user of the chemicals, because they have the same target now to bring the amount of chemicals down. That means within this new type of collaboration, it is also a type of a strategic partnership which opens up with chemical leasing. So as a supplier, you know that after this process much better what are really the needs of your clients, because you work together with him on the processes and how to optimize the processes. And this is a significant improvement of competitiveness. And the same is true for the other side. A user that enters this business model gets much more in the direction of sustainability, but also on achieves more efficient processes. And that means he saves costs, he saves chemicals, and in these days, this is a big issue, he also saves CO2 emissions, because less chemicals in a process means less CO2 emissions, a better life cycle assessment, and all these issues that are on the agenda in these days will improve if you avoid unnecessary consumption by this intensified collaboration. And this is a clear yes to increased competitiveness.
Yeah. I link another question to that, which fits very well into what you just said, Reinhard, I think. What does this tell us about customer relationships? So the question is, how about the quality or a transformation of supplier-customer relationships?
Yeah, a very good question. Thank you for this. So we have little time here, so I can just scratch a little bit on the surface. This is a very important aspect, because with this business model, certain responsibilities shift. And of course, there is one axiom overall: quality is a must. So if you are doing the cleaning with less chemicals, it cannot be a consequence that your parts are less clean. This is a no-go. So quality is a must. This is a fundamental principle behind chemical leasing. And then also it is clear it is not outsourcing. As a question sometimes I'm asked about, but it's not outsourcing. The user is still responsible for these processes, but there is more involvement of the supplier. And this defines new types of contracts about liability, about responsibilities, also about confidentiality. And let me tell you, out of 20 years experience, at the beginning, companies are a bit suspicious about these questions: liability, confidentiality, quality. But in all the 250 cases I know, there was maybe just one case where really a liability question came up. And this was sugar mills in Mexico, a very strange example, but one case, and no other liability topic. And also confidentiality. Companies are very afraid sharing know-how might weaken their position, but we didn't see it. And those companies, and you can ask those companies that are doing this 5, 10, 20, 25 years, they never faced problems with confidentiality. But there are for sure some limitations, and in the client relationship, you need to take care to follow some good guidance. By the way, all these materials, these experiences are freely available on the UN website. You need a website on chemical leasing. And we share these experiences out of 20 years. But you need to take care. A few principles need to be redefined in the relationship between a supplier and a client.
Last clear message. And actually, that's also the case for other relatively innovative business models. So then you have to, as soon as you go new innovative ways, you deviate a little bit from the standard, and you have to get the standards for yourself right. So that's not only chemical leasing, and I think should not be a hurdle to use it. So thank you for that glass clear answer, Reinhard. Next question. In your opinion, Reinhard, would a chemical leasing model work for GMP manufactured chemicals?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I see no reason why not.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Very good. Also, this is short and crispy and facilitates the next question. Does it require a robust inventory management system or strategies by a distributor, or is it reliant on the manufacturer?
That's a very important and very good question. Part can be answered very clear. It's not depending on the manufacturer, or not only on the manufacturer. There is a requirement that chemical leasing works, and this requirement is the supplier has knowledge about the application. If we have a supplier that does not know what happens with its chemicals, chemical leasing is not working, because then this new process of collaboration and process optimization does not happen. And now if we look back to what is the knowledge distributors have, typically they know the clients, and they know what is the client doing with this chemical, and this gives them, I would say, a pull position in these business models, because they know the application and they have the direct contact to the supplier. On the other side, they also might have the contact to the manufacturer, in the sense giving some messages from the clients back. This will be the need for the chemicals of the future, and so on. And this defines this very important position of the distributors on this way to sustainable chemistry solutions. Now, of course, it is clear that if a manufacturer, one of the big groups, and they are doing it, has a new approach, or also has experts that know particular about an application, it can also run directly the business model between the manufacturer and the client. Both is possible, but we see, if I just give you this example about the agriculture, as I said, we have a drastic overconsumption of pesticides in many developing and transition countries. Why? Because the farmer wants to have huge amounts of pesticides on his field. His life, the life of his family, depends that there is a yield, and therefore he says, I want to see the pesticide on the plant, then I feel safe, I can sleep well. And if there is on the other side a classical business with a sales agent, and if the clients request huge amount, he sells huge amounts. And even sometimes these sales agents tell me, I know the farmer could do the same way with just using 30% instead of 100%, because 70% are simply overconsumption, but that's the doses he needs to sleep well. And under this new business model, I think now you see at this example, the distributor that sits in Sri Lanka at the tea plantation, he is the essential person because he knows quite well about the conditions when and what amount of pesticides should be used. He can enable these collaborations that is required. And that's why I would say a clear answer. It's not only the manufacturer, it's all the partners in the supply chain with a particular focus on the distributor.
Yeah, super. That reflects fully the range of our association and explains why we are so happy to support it on top. So thank you, Reinhard. We have a lot of more questions. Thank you so much to everyone who's really submitting so many questions. So Reinhard, there's a high level of interest, I can tell you. So next question. Are the applications to the award public or disclosed publicly? And the same question also for the awarded projects. So what about disclosure of applications and awarded projects?
Every application is treated confidentially first, but the winners are then publicly announced, and in coordination with the winner, also the project description that is presented at the award ceremony is publicly available. So no details. Don't be afraid that we say you can use now 5 liters of this chemical and so on. No details, but the general application is publicly in the assessment before the winners are announced. Everything is internal and confidential, and also the team has signed confidentiality declarations.
Okay, then the next question. Who is the jury assessing all the applications?
Yeah, the jury assessing the applications is combined of those countries that signed this declaration of interest to participate in chemical leasing. I think it's a total of 7 countries worldwide. So all these countries can send a representative to the assessment. Then UNIDO sends a representative. Industry is invited to send a representative, and academia will send a representative.
Wow. So this is really a very exciting jury there, and fully independent, as we can see. So then the next question. I represent chemicals used in biopharma to manufacture drugs. How would you approach end users who have proprietary formulations on chemical leasing to help ensure the accuracy of the model? Shall I read it out again, Reinhard, or was it clear?
Yes, but I would suggest, Dorothy, if this is fine, that we answer this question via email because we have just 5 minutes. And if you have many questions, I think this is a very particular question for one company, an interesting one, but it might not be so general interest for all. So maybe we switch these and others to an email answer and highlight or focus now on those that are of interest for all participants.
Yes. I think that's a very good proposal because indeed we are running short of time. So to the one who asked these questions, we will revert to you. So rest assured it doesn't fall off the grid. You get an email from us afterwards. So then a question that I can easily answer. Is this being recorded? Yes, it is. May I share this with my colleagues? Yes, please do. Even strongly encouraged, and we thank you for that. Additionally, I'd like to connect with someone to discuss the 2025 annual Congress event. That's for us. Yes, you will also get an email. We're happy to discuss it. I would just like to thank you for the very interesting presentation. Thank you for that one. That one we've had. And then the last one, is there any... Do you keep track records of what happened to the awarded entries? Did these companies have a major benefit afterwards? That's a nice question. Yeah.
Yes, we do. And we follow up with these with the winners. And for 3 years, 2021, we had a special award for chemical leasing champions. That means companies that apply or use chemical leasing for more than 10 years. And we had many companies that showed up there. And I know also some FECC members are active in this field for more than 10 or 15 years. Yes, we do. But this is done on an internal basis only. So no public action behind. This is just from the chemical leasing team of UNIDO that we contact those and ask them from time to time about feedback, or we invite them to webinars or sessions at the UN in order to follow up and see what are the experiences. Do companies agree that we share experiences? And this leads, as I explained before, to quite an extensive guidance on all types of questions for this business model, which are available for free download from the chemical leasing website.
Yes. And as you said before in your presentation, Reinhard, I mean, this is also about branding. So marketing and sales-wise, if you can come up with the award stamp, so to say, that your business model has been awarded by the United Nations, I mean, what else can you ask for? And even if you don't get the final award, but also the certificates that Reinhard have mentioned, you can put in a nice frame and put it in your offices as a visual and living motivation to go the extra mile. So
yes, and it was signed, this certificate, by the Minister of Austria and the Director General of UNIDO.
Cool. So I think that explains also the value, and branding usually relates back into additional business. So our time has come to unfortunately say farewell, but all the questions we have at least worked off, with the exception of the 2 follow-up aspects. That one we will follow up here internally, that's our Congress, and the other one is for UNIDO, and we'll make sure that the one who asked this question gets the answer on this very specific case of drugs distribution. So what remains to say is, first of all, many, many thanks, Reinhard, for your time, for your support to us, to the scheme of UNIDO. I think we couldn't have asked a better ambassador there. And I think the flames of passion went through the monitors and really hopefully infected a lot of people to send in their applications. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone who took the time to listen in today. Please do share the recording, do share the presentation. We also put that on our homepage afterwards. Motivate your colleagues, your business partners. This scheme comes only every 3 years, so now is the time to apply for it by the end of the year at the latest. Many thanks to everyone who submitted the questions. And last but not least, thank you to Diana for running the show behind the scenes. And having said that, we wish everyone a nice afternoon. Take care, and we'll stay in touch on chemical leasing and other sustainable business models. Many thanks and bye-bye. Bye, Reinhard. Take care.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.